Hi, I'm Rachel from Virtual Approval, and today I'm going to talk about hybrid events. So hybrid events are a really popular form of events combining both the virtual and physical in-person elements of an event. We've been running a lot over the last 18 months at Virtual Approval, and we've learned a lot along the way, so I wanted to share with you some top tips. I'm going to cover 3 key areas about hybrid event planning. The first one being picking the right venue. So there's many factors to consider when selecting any event venue, but the important factors when you're picking a hybrid event venue are quite different to selecting a venue for a traditional in-person event. So I'm going to talk about those factors and how to order them. The next thing is your agenda, making sure that the content is really engaging and interactive, both for the people in the room at the event and also those watching virtually, and joining the two together. And the third thing is budget. Does it really cost twice as much to run a hybrid event because there are essentially 2 audiences? Well, we'll delve into that in a bit more detail and uncover the truth. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so we're planning an event. Maybe it's a conference, an awards ceremony, a gala dinner. The first thing that we probably need to decide is our venue. So as an event organizer, you probably have a whole list of priorities and things that you want to fulfill to make sure it's the right venue for you. You're going to think about the transport links, you're going to think about the parking, what AV technology is on site, is there a projector, what are the speakers like, the microphones, what does the room actually look like, how are we going to decorate it. Now that hybrid is involved, we need to stop and flip that around. Can you flip me back around? Now that you're planning a hybrid event, that list is somewhat different. The number one main consideration when planning a hybrid event is the connectivity. It's really important to have a stable, continuous, hardwired, fast speed internet connection so that you can successfully stream out the content from the venue out to your virtual audience and receive that signal back. If the venue that you select doesn't have that facility, it's really hard to overcome using a different method. So before you select your event venue, consider first the internet connection. Maybe go to site, run a test, speak to the venue, find out what their connection is, where the Ethernet ports are in the venue so you can connect to those. So that is the number one factor when picking your event venue. The number 2 consideration is the technology. So now we're streaming the content out online, we're going to need some extra equipment so that the audiences can see each other and interact, hear each other properly. So the first thing that you will need, in addition to all the usual kit, such as your projector screen, your speakers and your microphones, is some cameras. Your virtual audience need to be able to see what happens in the room. So you're going to need definitely 1 camera, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe more cameras, depending on how advanced you want the production to be. So do you want to have a wide angle shot mixing in with a close-up shot of your presenters and flicking between different presenters or different audience members? That will determine how many cameras you're going to need. The second additional thing is probably another screen. So you've got your usual screen where you might display some slides, and on the other screen you probably want to see your audience. So if you want to have 2-way conversations with the audience as though they were in the room, like a true hybrid event, then you want to be able to see and hear them. Maybe you want to pin a particular virtual delegate to the screen so that they can ask a question to the presenter. Maybe you want to see the whole audience in a gallery view. Either way, you're going to need that particular visual, so another projector screen, a video wall, etc. Next thing we're going to talk about is planning your event agenda. There is a bit of a misconception at the moment around what constitutes a hybrid event. So it's not just broadcasting a physical event out to a virtual audience like a one-way webinar or a television show or through the keyhole, if you like. A true hybrid event is Something that combines both audiences, that's very immersive, engaging, entertaining, regardless of whether you are in the room as an in-person attendee or watching online. It should be the same enjoyment, the same experience and input that you're able to have in the content of the event. So we're going to talk about how we achieve that. There's been so many lessons learned over the last 18 months when we have been delivering virtual events. I bet you have seen some advancements in your own virtual events compared to very early lockdown when everybody was just figuring out video conferencing. And then there were some huge improvements around using things like quizzes, games, polls, gamifications, and some really creative and inventive ways that we could make those events so much more exciting, combat Zoom fatigue, and everybody's really proud of the advancements that they've made. So it'd be a huge waste to forget all of that knowledge now and go back to a one-way broadcast and call it a hybrid event. So let's just think outside the box, bridge the two together and make it a really great experience. My best advice would be to think of it as two tracks. So you have two sets of audiences, and every time you plan a point on the agenda for one audience, think about how you're going to transfer that to the other audience. So for example, if we're looking at a physical event space, the first thing that your delegates do when they arrive is they have a cocktail and they do some networking. Well, your virtual attendees can do the same. Maybe they do a quick cocktail masterclass, you send them out the ingredients or a shopping list, you have a professional mixologist talk them through how to make a lovely mojito, and then they go off into breakout rooms, meet and greet, have a chat, and it's the exact same experience pretty much as the people who are doing that in the venue. So they're having the same parallel experience at the same time. Just takes that ambition and creativity to think about both agendas, both independently and combined, and make it as connected as possible throughout the whole experience. So that would be my top tips for making a really advanced and really fun hybrid event that ticks both those boxes. Okay, great. So we talked about the how, and now how much? Let's get into talking about the budget. So we talked about having two of a lot of things. We've got two agendas, we've got two venues, and we've got all the nice snazzy ways that we talked about bringing them all together, making it super exciting and engaging. But what does that all mean for your event budget? Does it really mean that it's going to be doubled? What's the scale? What's the ratio? Let's just break it down and consider all the facts. So first of all, now that we're going to select your event venue in a different way, there's definitely some savings to be made around there. Maybe you have a smaller event venue, maybe you pick a different event venue. You might not need to factor in accommodation or so much travel, both for yourself as the event organizer and the presenters, or for the delegates. Maybe you don't need so much catering or different catering, so there's definitely some savings that you can factor in now that your event has transferred into a hybrid format. But there are of course some extra expenses. So the first one being your virtual platform. We've talked a lot about how to select the right venue for your physical delegates, but what about the virtual delegates? They need a venue of their own, which is essentially the virtual event platform. There are loads and loads of virtual event platforms out there, and the right one for you will depend on the content and the look and feel of your event, how you want your virtual audience to interact with the content. And there's definitely some savings to be made. You won't necessarily need to pay for a full license for that platform. We already have a lot of licenses, so have a chat with us, and we're happy to advise about which is the right platform solution for your virtual or hybrid event. So that is an extra cost, whichever way you look at it. It's not something that you would have paid for when you were just planning a live physical event, but now you will have to factor into your overall event budget. And the second thing is the technology. So we talked about the AV equipment, those extra cameras, the screens, the microphones, and making it a really nice production that bridges the gap between your two audiences. So that's going to cost a bit extra. So when you factor everything in, Our conclusion is that yes, it probably will cost a little bit extra to transfer your physical event into a hybrid format. Will it cost double? Probably not. You need to decide where on the pendulum you land. So there are some savings to be made and there's some extra expense, but where you land on that pendulum depends on your priorities when it comes to the quality and delivery of your event. You may find that your original budget of X is now X plus 20%. However, the reach of your event, it has doubled, quadrupled. For example, if you had a physical event budget costing X and that would reach 100 delegates, but now your X plus 20% for those extra costs will now reach 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 delegates, then the potential return on investment is much greater. So actually the cost per head is less and the income from the event could be far, far greater, or the exposure, whatever it is that the objective of your event is. So that would be our advice. Have a chat with us if you want to talk about your specific event brief, and good luck with going out there and planning your own hybrid events. Hope you have lots of fun, and give us a shout if you need any help. Thanks, I've been Rachel from Virtual Approval. Do subscribe to our channel and see you on the next one. Bye.